Let's talk about Another Simple Favor, which is the sequel to A Simple Favor, directed by Paul Feig again, starring Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, who return to play their respective roles as Stephanie and also Emily, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. But let's talk about this movie. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We are on the road to 40,000 subscribers. We are definitely excited to talk about Another Simple Favor because, my goodness, watching this movie, the twists, the turns, I was just in shock, I was in awe, and I was enjoying this movie a lot. So this film takes place 5 years after the events of the first film, and we see now that Stephanie Smothers has become a true crime blogger, amateur detective, and also wrote a book about Emily. We see that at a signing event, however, she is confronted by Emily, who has now been released on appeal, marrying her old friend Dante Versano, who is this wealthy Italian man who actually has connections to the mob, it seems. She invites Stephanie to be the maid of honor and says if she doesn't do it, he's going to give her a lawsuit. So we see as Stephanie goes with Emily to Capri, and that's where we see that things are going to really get catastrophic. We see that Sean is there, and of course Sean being played by Henry Golding, and Sean is just drunk. He is just drunk most of the time in this movie, I think, and bitter as hell. We then see that they have a heated confrontation. We see Sean and Dante are not eye to eye on anything, and later that night Sean is murdered in his hotel room. We don't know by who. So we see that Stephanie and Emily have no clue this is happening because they are at a bachelorette party where they're the only two guests, and they just have a reconnection of sorts. And then we see that Stephanie returns back to the hotel that night to discover that Sean is indeed dead. Now, Stephanie suspects it's Emily who got involved with this because of the heated argument and the whole thing with Emily wanting her son to be with her and not with Sean. So it seems that things are getting very, very suspicious around here, right? Later that day, we see that Stephanie confronts a mysterious woman who has been sort of eyeing her since the beginning of the film, and it turns out to be an FBI agent named Irene who is investigating Aunt Linda, who is the aunt to Emily, and she shows Stephanie a photo of Linda talking to a mysterious woman that Stephanie says, "That's Emily, I see her tattoo right there." Later that night, however, Emily and Dante are eventually married, and we see that Dante tears up his prenuptial agreement that he had with Emily, declaring a gesture of peace between the two rival mob families, the Versanos and the Bartolos, and we see that Matteo Bartolo, a member of the rival family, looks a little bit like, eh. Stephanie then follows Dante as he is leaving the reception, only to witness him being shot, and we see that Portia accuses Emily of murdering him for his money, Portia being the mother of Dante, who doesn't really like Emily. But then we see that Linda casts suspicion on Matteo, who says, "I did not do it." And then everybody's like, wait, the only one that saw this murder happen and cannot be accounted for is Stephanie. So then Stephanie is put under house arrest, and I was just like, how the hell is Stephanie going to get out of this, right? So this movie quickly, at its midway point, just from here on out, turns into the wackiest, craziest, most juiciest story I've seen in a bit, and I really did love every moment of this next part, because we see that Stephanie then meets with Emily, only to realize that in fact this is not Emily. At first she's like, wait, this is Faith, but Faith actually died. I saw her body, she says. That can only mean you're Charity, because indeed there were triplets. There was Hope, Faith, and Charity. And then Charity's like, well, you got me. But she stabs herself and frames Stephanie for the attack, which causes her to be held captive even more in this house arrest, and as she walks out. So at this point, we don't know what the hell happened to Emily, but Charity is now walking around like she's Emily since she's part of the triplets. At this point, it's unclear on how Stephanie's going to get away, but however, thanks to Irene paying a housekeeper, she's able to get out of the hotel room in order to find out the truth. This is when we see that she enters Margaret's room, who is Emily's mother, and reveals that Charity stillbirth, as they all thought, was actually faked by Linda, who then went on to raise Charity as her own daughter and now accomplice. We then see that as Stephanie leaves the hotel room to meet Irene to tell her this, Irene is then stabbed by Charity, who's in disguise, and that's pretty much it for Irene, it seems, unless we get another simple favor, yet another simple favor, or one more simple favor, or just one more favor. We'll talk about what the third film could possibly be called. I don't know. We then see that Linda discovers that Margaret actually told Stephanie the truth, and this pisses her off so much that she murders her now. But also people now believe Irene's murder is connected to Stephanie, and then she is taken to Portia, who is Dante's mother. This is where she injects her with quote-unquote truth serum in order for her to tell her what exactly happened, but she doesn't get any clear answers from Stephanie. Portia then orders for Stephanie to be killed, but then she is rescued by Emily. She explains that Linda was attempting to blackmail her and Dante, threatening to reveal that their wedding was actually out of convenience in order for Emily to be let out of jail, but actually because Dante needed an alibi for him and Matteo to be together since they were actually lovers all of these years. But we saw that Emily refused, and then she was confronted by Charity, who actually was the one who killed both Sean and Dante due to her being romantically obsessed with Emily. Yes, as Emily says it, Stephanie has the brother fucker, and now Charity is the sister fucker. Really, really outrageous film. But we eventually see that Charity had drugged Emily and actually married Dante in her place. That was the whole thing about it, that it was actually Charity marrying Dante that night, and Emily was pretty much drugged out. That's why Linda didn't let Stephanie go into Emily's room the day of the wedding, because that's when they were doing the whole switcheroo thing right there. And we now see that Emily was able to be freed because Charity forgot to drug her that day, since Charity was pretty busy doing everything like killing Irene. Eventually we have a confrontation between Emily and Charity, Linda and Stephanie, while Nikki is being held at gunpoint, Nikki being of course Emily's son. Linda plans to kill Stephanie and pin the murders on her, and she wants Charity to assume Emily's life, money, and position within the Versano family. But what we soon see happen is Stephanie decides to tell Charity that Emily has to die, which Charity does not want to happen because she feels a connection towards Emily, a romantic connection of sorts, and feels that they are one. This causes enough of a commotion for Nikki to fly the toy drone he's been using throughout the movie on Linda's face, and this allows Charity to take the gun and shoot her, sending her over the cliff in one of the most funniest deaths I think we'll see all year. We then see as Emily kisses Charity to disarm her and convinces her to take her place in prison and take responsibility for all of the murders if she really loves her. Stephanie then goes back home and writes a second book about the murders in Capri, and now she raises Nikki in Emily's place, since Emily has to go into hiding since she is now like this new person of sorts. However, then we see that Portia confronts Emily about everything that happened and reveals that she knew the marriage between Emily and Dante was fake, and that Emily didn't kill all of those people, that she knew about her son and also the secret lover he had. She welcomes her into the family and requests a simple favor, handing her an envelope with unknown contents. So that's pretty much the ending right here. Charity was the secret sister we never knew of. We knew there was hope, we knew there was faith, but Charity had always been presumed death. But we now know that Linda had taken this child and just said it was a stillbirth in order to raise her as her own child. We don't know exactly why. Maybe she couldn't have child or whatever it is, but we do now know that. And Charity was very close to Emily. It seems she felt a connection, and that was kind of like the thing about her psychosis, was that she had these like grand thoughts of who Emily was for her. But eventually we see that Emily's able to use this to turn Charity against Linda and have Charity take the fall for what Emily did. I'm very curious now how Emily's going to live in sort of the shadows and be part of the Versano family, and what this simple favor could be now. Are we getting into like spy thriller of sorts where Emily is like the secret spy? I really love that part where Emily had that humongous hat, so I think she's really into being covert now, right? But I'm interested to see where exactly the series goes if they decide to do a third one. I thought the second one was pretty fun, and I think that there's a ton of story to tell here. But let me know what you thought about Another Simple Favor. Like I said, it's outrageous, it's funny, it's very comical, it's very twisty, and it just goes into so many directions that you just gotta love it, right? So quick recap here. We saw that Emily was let out of prison early, and this was because Dante wanted to marry Emily, and the reason he wanted to marry Emily wasn't because of true love of sorts, but because he knew Emily would help conceal his secret with his secret lover, which he couldn't really be with since he came from a different family that was more of a rival family to his family, and Emily in exchange would get her freedom. Now, we do know that Sean dies here, but it's not Emily as we all assumed it could have been. It's actually Charity, who is jealous of these people being with Emily because she feels romantically involved with Emily for some reason, and that's why she also goes ahead and kills Dante on the night of the marriage, and she's actually the one that's marrying Dante that night, so it's Charity who kills both Sean and Dante. The plan that Linda had was for Charity to take the place of Emily and be part of the family, the Versano family, and inherit all of the money, and thus they would be able to be wealthy. They've been con artists for so long, so they wanted to continue doing this, but it turns out that it's not going to be as easy for Linda because Charity's actually in love with Emily, so she couldn't go with the second half of the plan, which was taking out Emily as well and pinning all the murders on Stephanie. That's what they wanted to do. Everything that had happened was going to be pinned on Stephanie. They were going to get rid of Emily's body. That way Charity could become Emily, and thus Linda and Charity would continue thriving off the Versano family and all the wealth they've accumulated. But of course, we saw by the end that Emily and Stephanie were able to get the best of Linda as she ultimately died at the hands of Charity, and Charity is now taking the place of Emily because she was easily able to be convinced for her unrequited love towards Emily because she just loves her that much. She'll take the fall for her and say that she did all of these things. So now Emily has to be in hiding because Emily, quote unquote, Charity, is now in jail for what Emily did, but that is not actually Emily, right? So Emily has to assume a new persona of sorts, but now it seems she might be with the Versano family and get a little bit of help there because Portia, the mother of Dante, knew everything about the wedding being a sham and also about the murders that happened, but now she wants Emily's expertise on something, a simple favor, as she says, which brings us back to what exactly is going to happen. So that was confusing. Or not, I don't know. I feel like I was confusing explaining it, but let me know what you thought about the movie in the comments down below. Bad happened. Stephanie all this time thought that maybe Emily just wanted to kill her, but that wasn't the case. She just wanted Stephanie there because she can sort of count on her. I think Stephanie also going through the motions of feeling the weight of true crime getting to her throughout the movie because she feels that she inadvertently got someone killed because of her snooping around and sleuthing and all of that and the internet pressure, and maybe that person was actually not guilty. I think is talking about as a larger thing in society with true crime and obsession that we have today, and how everybody wants to be the first one to break the case, and is that really ethical the way people go about it? I thought that was such an interesting observation and conversation happening in the film as well with Stephanie and all of that. And it's just a great twisty story, really soap opera, with Linda trying to get her revenge and Linda trying to sort of inject Charity to be Emily, like the twin sister type scenario we've seen so many times, and even in A Simple Favor as well. So very, very excited to see what Paul Feig cooks up next with the rest of the talented writers and the cast as well. Let me know what you thought about the film and the ending, and what do you think about a possible series, a possible sequel-ish to the sequel? Let me know down below. But as always, that's going to do it for me. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell. We're on the road to 40,000 subscribers. Check out our review for the film as well to learn more about what we thought about the film, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe, stay positive.